said by everybody tonight, but it's an incredible honor for me to be standing in front of a group of extraordinary people like you. I don't deserve this, but I'm happy to be here. I'm scared of your watch, though, David. Give me a couple minutes, okay? And I'll tell you what I know about Bud.
I'll give you two.
In a minute, you're going to meet an extraordinary woman, Bud's daughter, Donna Kapner, and her daughter, Kyla. And they're living out Bud's legacy beautifully, each in their own way. But before that, I was thinking how best to describe Bud. And I think everybody in the room will understand this, although a lot of people in other parts of life wouldn't. Bud was the real deal. He was the toughest guy I ever knew in my life. You know, he wasn't a backmarker or a wannabe the way I've been and the way maybe a lot of you have been. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Racing needs a pack. But Bud was never in the pack. He was always in the lead. He was always the guy to measure yourself against. And this is an example of how tough he was. I was sitting at his house one night. We were drinking and I was listening to his stories, which was wonderful. And he told me about a desert race he had where he was being, you know, didn't have it locked up. There was a guy really pushing him hard, a friend of his, and he tricked this friend into crashing down an abandoned mine shaft. And I said, Bud, how could you do that? And he said, what do you mean? It's racing. The idea is to win, right? And he said the guy would have done it to me if he thought of it first. And I've always thought, as an actor, which is what I am, I've always thought, Steve McQueen, we all know that Bud taught Steve McQueen how to race in the desert. And by extension, how to drive race cars. And McQueen was superb at it. But I always thought that Steve McQueen also learned an awful lot of his tough guy screen persona from Bud. If you watch his movies after they started doing stuff together, like The Great Escape, and if you knew Bud, you'll see an awful lot of Bud in Steve McQueen. Anyway, I'll just read you one thing. I asked Dave, his brother, who was no slouch as a racer, was an excellent racer in his own right. They called Dave the professor back then. And I called Dave a couple days ago and said, what do you want me to say for you about your brother Bud? And this is what he said. I wrote it down. He said, Bud was a rebel. He was uncontrollable. He knew what he wanted to do, and he just did it, and nobody could stop him. Bud Ekins, great guy. Donna? This is his dad's daughter, and his granddaughter.
Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Motorsport Hall of Fame. We're just thrilled to be here. This is my daughter, Kira. Hi. My father is probably best known for doing the jump in The Great Escape and for driving the Mustang and Bullet. But stunt work was only a part of his motorsports. First and foremost, my father was a racer. He was a motorcycle racer. But at home, he was daddy. Growing up as a daughter, Bud Ekins was probably a little different than how most other kids were raised. Instead of my ABCs, I learned a motorcycle for every letter of the alphabet. Did you really? I did. Are you sure you remember it still? Let's give it a try. Ariel, Bull Taco, Cyclone, Ducati, Excelsior, Flying Merkel, Tolero, Honda, Indian, Jawa, Kawasaki, Lambretta, Matisse, Norton, Opel, Pope, Quadrant, Rating Standard, Suzuki, Triumph, Universal, UV, Belised, Werner, XL, Zinda. He's pretty awesome. And then we get to learn it next. Kyle's already got you. Vacations were also different in the Ekins family. They usually meant that Daddy had some big race, Arizona, Baja. The day before the race, he would load up his race car, and we would head out for a little pre-run survey of the course. My sister and I, Susie, would do that, which meant at least 4 hours in the car, non-stop, no pit stops. He never wanted my sister or I to race. He wanted us to do what we wanted to do. He wanted us to live our lives, and that's what he always did. He lived his own life. Daddy was bigger than life, and he lived his life full throttle. He was a tough guy's tough guy and a man's man.
But to our family, he was forever and always a loving husband to my grandma, Betty, a loving father to my mom, Donna, and my aunt, Susie, and a very loving grandfather to me, Kira, and my sister, Kyla. Our family just wanted to give a big thank you to the Motorsports Hall of Fame for this wonderful honor. Thank you.